Welcome. This is the Post-Secondary Transition Podcast, where we have conversations around the ins and outs and everything in between of the transition process for families of students with disabilities. I'm one of the hosts. My name is Patrick Cadigan, and I am a public school transition coordinator. As always, I have a co-host, and who would that be?
I am Meghan Smallwood, and I am also a public school transition coordinator.
So we're back, and we are going to continue with our discussion with support broker Jamie Brodnax. This will be part 2, and we are going to jump right into that discussion already in progress.
I was going to say, I know, Jamie, you mentioned this before about helping, if you're selected early on in the process, you can be involved in some of the PCP or person-centered planning meetings and writing them for families. I think families get very confused and, again, overwhelmed. That seems to be the main word, but not knowing what to expect. So I'm sure having you there, that have seen these before and kind of know what DDA is looking for and what to expect can really help with the process as well. So I'm assuming you are involved with that.
Yes. So, when it comes to developing the PCP and writing the PCP, that is the CCS. That is their primary role, is taking all of this information from the family and from the team and developing it in LTSS and creating the plan. But I can assist with identifying how some of the things that the family shares or that the individual shares can be used to develop goals, can be used to justify their services, and then in turn help them see how they can make their services work for them to achieve those goals. And, not to bring up the funding part again, but really a lot of that is through funding. Sometimes we're having to make decisions on pay rates or benefits to make sure that there's funding available for the person to do the things that they want or need with their DDA budget.
Yeah, and that's a great point too, because if you have been working closely with the family and you kind of know what they're looking for and you are attending IEP meetings or just getting to know the student, that can really add in an extra set of eyes on what kind of services might need to be included or what needs to be looked at moving forward. So,
Absolutely. And it can also help me with identifying, is this a person who may want to get started early on creating advertisements and bringing on staff? Or maybe this is a person who would do better with a vendor and, attending a program or vendoring services. Maybe they're not comfortable with hiring their staff or going through that process, and they would like to trust an agency to do that. All of that information comes out through those early conversations.
that's a great point too, because I think the default for a lot of families is, oh, well, I can work as staff.
Mhm.
And, I try to remind them, well, that's great, but you need to have, plan B, C, and D. You can't just be the only one supporting your individual. And it's not good for the young adult either. They need
Right.
other people. So you definitely, I'm sure, providing some resources on how to hire and help them to manage new staff, right?
Absolutely. And that is really a big part of my role, is not only just helping them make that decision, but then connecting them with the right resources to decide, maybe they want to go and interview a few different CDS programs, or maybe they want to talk to people who have hired their own staff. I also help with identifying activities, because one thing that I see parents sometimes not fully prepared for is the fact that when school ends and you're starting self-direction, if your choice is to hire staff, what are you going to do with your day? There is no one that's going to sit there and create a program for you. That's the job of the staff person or the day-to-day administrator, if that's your choice. Another thing that I like to do for my teams is send out quarterly or seasonally lists of activities, a lot of times free activities, groups. And I learned that information from the internet, like most other people, just doing search, but also talking to the people that I support, finding out the things that they're doing that they love, and then going back to those conversations that I've had and saying, well, this person is loving this horseback riding activity, and I am now supporting another person who said that they want to do something with animals. Maybe this resource would be good for them too. And that's one of the things that I actually really love about this role is introducing people to all of the things that are out there to fill your day and to help you meet your goals and to really give you the life that you're looking for in self-direction through understanding that it's not just services. It's a lot more than that.
Oh, that's great that you can share those activity ideas amongst your clients because I think that is one thing the social media groups has been huge for certain groups more than others, but I see activities constantly listed and I'm like, "Oh, that's great that it's getting out there." But I also tell families, like, when they're transitioning youth and deciding it's gonna do self-directed or traditional, like, just go visit the programs because at the very least, you can get an activity calendar to get an idea of what they're doing and kind of replicate it if you go self-directed, so
Mhm.
Jamie, one question that I have is you are in a fairly unique position in the sense that you started in the school system and then you transitioned and you became a coordinator of community service. And now you've transitioned again into the support broker world. So, in each one of those individual roles, and we've had many conversations, both online and offline, about tensions that exist. In this new role as a support broker, are those tensions still there or are they different?
I think any role is going to have some tensions, but definitely different in this role. Mainly, the tensions are related to the changes outside of our control and how those are going to impact, and trying to get ahead and making sure that we're prepared for whatever comes, but not knowing fully that whatever is going to be. Team by team, sometimes there are tensions within the team. Thankfully, that's not always my position to have to manage, but I'm definitely there to assist if there is that inter-team tension or any issues that come up.
So again, you continue to have to, in some ways, you may continue to have to play the role of arbiter or trying to think of the right word, but there even now as you have
mediator.
as you have moved into this new role, they like you said, there are still factors that sometimes these things can be it can lead to intense conversations.
Yeah. I mean, I'll say whenever you're dealing with the services that really support someone's life and then also dealing with money, there's going to be tensions there. People have strong feelings related to both of those things. And particularly in this role where not everyone that I support is able to advocate for themselves. You have different team members who may believe that they know what's best. And it's a factor of us trying to all work together to make sure that the person is getting what's best. Having differing opinions isn't always a bad thing. But at the end of the day, we just have to focus on making sure that the person is receiving the support that they need to have the life that they wanna have.
And you kind of answered a question that we did have about how you can best support those people to advocate and make sure that they're making informed decisions. It sounds like you make sure they know all the facts before the decision is made.
Yeah, and I think that that's so important. It's really something that I've chosen to focus my role around, is making sure that I am not making decisions for them, that I am providing the team and the individual with the information that they need to make their own choice. I can, of course, make suggestions and sometimes do if they ask for that. But primarily, I just wanna make sure that they know what's going on, what's required of them, and what their options are.
And that kind of reminds me of our role too, because we as transition specialists have to present all the information. And when it comes to some of those difficult topics like guardianship or alternatives, they want to get or choosing a day program, they want to get our opinions on it. And it's hard sometimes to stay neutral, but I always tell them you have to do what's best for you and your family. Most
Mhm.
importantly, what for your young adult, what would be a meaningful choice for them.
Yes. And thankfully, I have through conversations and connecting with different people, have found some really fantastic families who are open to having those conversations that maybe in our roles we're not able to have. So, one of the things that I do is if I have a family who is really struggling with making some decisions for themselves or fully understanding what different situations might look like for their child, connecting those families with other families who have been in similar situations. Of course, with both families being fully aware and agreeing to that connection.
And understanding this is what they chose.
Yes,
So hear them out, but make sure you're making decisions based off of what works for you.
absolutely.
Always that caveat.
And then kind of segueing a little bit, because I do have a systemic question. And what I mean by that
Okay.
is that what tools or systems do you use that helps you track all of the information that you're bringing in?
Oh, there are so many. I will say, so when it's related to the budget and the individual's teams, thankfully, I don't have to choose which systems to use. Each FMS has their own system. It is a requirement to use their system if you use them as your fiscal management agency. So we won't get into all of those because that could be a whole other conversation. But related to monitoring, managing the budget, monitoring and managing timesheets, each fiscal management agency has their own. For me personally, I use a lot of different folders and apps provided by my wonderful Microsoft account to manage all of the information that I am receiving. I'm also extremely organized when it comes to emails and separating the information from the things pertaining to specific clients. And I just keep track of things as they come in, really through reading them right away, identifying the important information, and then grouping them based off of what their topics are. And then I will go back and reread everything again and put all of that together to share with others. When it comes to tracking the work that I do, I have an app that I use that tracks down to the second the person that I am working for, what I am doing for them, and is that billable work. And that creates weekly timesheets for myself, which has been extremely helpful and time saving in making sure that I am accurately tracking all of the work that I do. And then I also have trackers that I've designed for myself that remind me to monitor each person's budget. If something comes up, like for example, there's been a recent change in the DDA rates, I develop a tracker, put that information in there, and break it down based off of, does it apply to this person? What needs to be done? How, the conversations, and then has that information been completed by the deadline? So just lots of different tools to keep things on track, keep things running smoothly, and making sure that nothing is missed.
So it sounds like, in terms of a support broker, that time management is a huge component.
Very much so.
And then do you have to submit any of those reports that you're generating for yourself, or is that just kept for you?
A little bit of both. So the trackers is more so for me to make sure that my teams are staying compliant instead of putting that responsibility on them. It just allows me to monitor, have these things been done? Maybe some teams need reminders. If there's a special circumstance that applies to someone, things like that. The billing and reporting regarding the work being done for each client, that does have to be shared with the fiscal management agencies whenever I choose to bill, which I personally bill monthly. So when I do that, I have to share down to the minute the exact time that I worked for that individual and what was done during that time.
So you have a direct interaction with the FMS. What about with DDA or even doors? Do you have any connection directly with them?
So doors, not too often unless there is a specific referral that someone I support is asking me to help with, a lot of times that will follow on the CCS. Communication with DDA varies. There is some communication that I have directly with them when it comes to the appeal process or the IFDGS process. Um, when it's related to issues regarding budgeting or maybe a problem with the FMS, I may take lead in contacting DDA, but a lot of times it's going to be the CCS that is doing that direct communication with DDA. And then I can, of course, be included in that and provide any information from the fiscal side. But a lot of times that main communication is coming from your CCS.
And IDFGS, for
Yes.
those who might not know.
That is, the Individual and Family Direct Goods and Services. So that is it encompasses a lot of different things that a person could use, again, the cost savings in their budget to help cover the cost of. Sometimes it is things specific to a person's disability and maybe their safety or sensory needs. But sometimes it's also activities like gym memberships, horseback riding, swim classes, things like that, that maybe is a difficult cost for the individual or their family to take on for themselves. If they have it in the budget, DDA allows you to submit a request to use that extra money to cover the cost of some of those items.
And that's the part where I think families get confused because they know what the individual enjoys or would like for them to
Mhm.
do. They don't know where it fits in. And so I always advise them talk to your CCS, talk to your support broker. Because, for example, horseback riding, if
Yes.
the student or individual is an avid horseback rider, let them know the activity and they can help to
Mhm.
figure out where it would go in the plan.
Absolutely. And because horseback riding specifically is such a popular activity for individuals receiving DDA services, a lot of the horseback riding providers in the area are willing to be paid directly from a person's budget. So there's no cost to the family, of course, if it's approved by DDA.
Ooh, that's good to know.
One last question that I have, and this is again kind of going off on a sidetrack, but what happens if a staff member quits or doesn't show up? Do you
Yeah,
help in those situations?
I definitely can in a couple different ways. So if it is that a staff member isn't showing up, or if there's any other problems with the staff member, I can work with the individual, their representative, and help them identify a plan of action. Is it that they are ready to move forward with dismissing that employee, or do we want to talk about, these are the consequences? We're going to share this information with the employee, let them know, this isn't acceptable. These are our expectations, and, how we're going to handle this now and again in the future if it occurs. Um, Highly recommend, before we even get to that point, creating an employee handbook at the beginning of your services, which is something that I do assist all of my clients in doing if that's their choice. The employee handbook will be very straightforward in describing the job role, the expectations, the hours, the pay, what is okay at work and what isn't okay. The needs of the individual and also the expectations regarding the employee themselves, maintaining their training, taking additional trainings if that client needs that. And then also listing benefits, time off expectations, and of course, the rules regarding not showing up on time, doing things that do not align with the expectations. A big one right now is phone usage. A lot of people are choosing to put information about that in their employee handbooks to make sure, it's understood what their expectation is regarding that. So, if you do the handbook, it makes the conversation a little bit easier when something doesn't go as planned because the expectations were already laid out when that person was hired. If there is not a resolution or an ability to fix the problems that are occurring, At any point, an individual is able to choose to terminate the employment of one of their employees. That is done by a termination letter that we would send to the employee that, again, I can help them in drafting. DDA also provides templates and samples on their website. And then we would move forward with contacting the FMS, letting them know that the individual has made the decision not to move forward with this employee. And there's a form. Each FMS has their own form, but there's a form that we would fill out to make that termination final.
All right then. Well, originally the plan was to end on a positive note, which is to say asking about, the rewarding part of your job, but you actually had addressed that earlier. So,
Yeah.
one last question is that what skills or qualities would you think make a good support broker?
Ooh, that is a good question.
Organization and time management definitely came to mind when you were talking about all
Definitely.
you do.
That is a very good question because it's not something that I feel like I really think about. It's more so just something that I do, but time management is a huge part of it. Also, taking the time to fully understand everything related to self-direction. There is a support broker training that is given that we have to pass now on a yearly basis to be a support broker. That training just touches on the important details, but doesn't really get into all of the background information that I feel makes a person a good support broker. So I would say putting in that time to inform yourself, educate yourself, attend those hearings and those webinars so that you are up to date with what is going on because today's rules might not be tomorrow's rules. And your teams are going to look at you for that information. So you want to make sure that you have that information to give them.
All right. And then I teased you earlier about shameless self-promotion, but how can people find you?
You can find me on social media. I am on Facebook and Instagram under my name, which is Jamie Brodnax, or my company's name, Achieving Independent Support Services. I also have a website that needs to be updated. So don't judge me on that too hard.
Oh, no. Oh, no, no. There will be
I
judging.
think we know someone who could help. Just kidding.
There will be a lot of judging. Well, fantastic.
Thank you so much, Jamie. That was very informative, and I think so much needed to revisit for families.
Thank you. Well, thank you for having me. I'm always happy to talk to you
We
guys and
appreciate it.
share whatever I know.
Awesome. Well, thank you, thank you, thank you. And as always, Megan and I will be back again in 2 weeks' time with another fantastic conversation.
Sure will. As always, you'll find links to the information from our conversations in our show notes. We would love for the information from this and all our other discussions to reach as many families as possible, and we need your help to do that. You can find our conversations at www.p2transition.com. Like, follow, share out the podcast. Our conversations are posted to all the major platforms, including Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube Music, and that's just naming a few. So please share and share often.
Please check out our YouTube channel. We've done some of the legwork for you by curating videos of topics that revolve around transition. We have playlists for guardianship, alternatives to guardianship, ABLE accounts, and there's more to come, so please be sure to subscribe there as well. And finally, check out our website, which is full of information and links to resources around the transition process. Open your web browser of choice and surf to www.postsecondarytransition.com. We thank you so much for the time that you've spent with us and look forward to talking again soon.